7 p.m., February 5th, 2018. I call the Waverly regular meeting of the Waverly City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Bergen.
Here.
Drinkow.
Here.
Kangas.
Here.
McKenzie.
Here.
Rothy.
Here.
Scher. Absent. Waldstein. Absent.
Councilperson Scheer is at a conference in Louisiana. Councilperson Waldstein is the proud grandmother of a new granddaughter. Was born Friday, 2nd of February, and Melina Phillips Mercurio is her little girl's her name, and so we wish them all well, and they're all doing fine. So we'd rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would take a motion for approval of the agenda as presented.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
No? Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes from January 15th, regular council meeting minutes, January 22nd, study session, and January 27th, budget session minutes. Entertain a motion, please.
I will move approval of the minutes from January 15th, 2018, January 22nd, 2018, and January 27th, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes are approved. This evening, we're blessed with the guest council person, Sharon Abram. And Sharon, if you would like to give us a little bit of background, what your thoughts are, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I was born here in Waverly, lived here all my life, went to Waverly High School, graduated from Wartburg College. I met my husband, Jack Abram, and I have two boys, two grown boys. We ran Abrams Incorporated, which is in the College Town Plaza. It was a carpet shop. And as far as a career, I was a teacher and taught several places around the area. And then I became an accountant for College Hill Drug, which is, at that time, 3 stores, Myers, Stoffers, Pharmacies, and Julie's Hallmark. Then I ran for Bremer County Treasurer and served 2 terms there. And now I'm retired, and I do a lot of volunteerism because I want to give back to the community that I really greatly love. So that's kind of a nutshell.
Very good, Sharon. Thank you. You're aware that you can jump into conversations anytime you'd like. Have all the privileges of council, except we won't allow you to vote. And go from there. Thank you. Next item of business is a proclamation to recognize the 50th anniversary of Iowa's home rule. Up until 50 years ago, cities were allowed to kind of rule as they wanted to, and there's been a move to have some things not prepared by. Was governed by the state, and they loosened it up a little bit and allowed the cities to do anything within the law anyway. And the proclamation reads as this: whereas home rule is essential to effective and responsive municipal governance in Iowa and provides flexibility to make decisions at the local level where decisions are made closest to the people they impact and can be tailored to fit local conditions, needs, and concerns in order to better serve the taxpayers. Whereas the City of Waverly supports home rule and the powers it provides to make local decisions that best reflect the residents of our community. Whereas the citizens of Iowa approved the adoption of home rule in the Constitution of Iowa on November 5th, 1968. Whereas this is the 50th year of municipal home rule in Iowa. Whereas home rule continues to be vital to the health and prosperity of all cities in Iowa. Now therefore, I, Dean Soish, Mayor of Waverly, Iowa, do hereby recognize the 50th anniversary of municipal home rule in Iowa and proudly support its continued authority. Dated this 5th day of February 2018. I'd entertain a motion to approve the proclamation.
I move proclamation. Move to approve the proclamation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Proclamation is hereby in effect. Thank you.
I would just like to comment that that was done on my 15th birthday.
That must mean today is your birthday.
No, it was November 5.
November, okay. Should've paid
No,
attention
the
while we
original
were
home
reading.
rule constitutional amendment was voted on my 15th birthday.
Okay, item number H is a public hearing. This is the date, time, and place for a public hearing on Resolution 1811 on the vacation of platted alley in Block 12, original town of Waverly, Iowa, as platted by William P. Harmon and conveyance to the adjacent property owners. Mayor and City Council will entertain any comments. After all comments, the hearing will be declared closed and the following action will be considered. Clerk, have you received any communication on this?
I have not received any written or oral comments.
Okay. Open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? It's the alley back of the old CUNA Mutual building downtown and also affects Kaiser Corson Funeral Home. So if you're, gives you a little better idea of where the alley in Block 12, original town, is at. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion from the council or council discuss, and then we'll do council discussion.
I will move Resolution 1811, approving the vacation of alley in Block 12, original town of Waverly, Iowa, as platted by William P. Harmon, and fee title is conveyed from the city of Waverly as follows. I got to read the whole thing?
Please.
Okay. Number one, the west half of the alley in Block 12, original town of Waverly, Iowa, is platted by William P. Harmon, is conveyed to Waverly Historic Lofts, LLC. The north half of the east half of the alley in Block 12, original town of Waverly, as platted by William P. Harmon, is conveyed to Waverly Historic Lofts, LLC. The south half of the east half of the alley in Block 12, original town of Waverly, Iowa, as platted by William P. Harmon, is conveyed to Corson Properties, LC.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any council discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Motion carried. 5-0. Next item for a public hearing is, this is the date, time, and place for a public hearing on Resolution 1812 on the sale of a parcel of land referred to as parcel AA in the street right-of-way, Greenway, adjacent to Mark's Repair, to MMC Properties LLC to facilitate redevelopment. Clerk received any comments on this one?
We have not, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience care to speak on this? It's the north side, a strip of land that's part of a drainage ditch on the north side of Mark's Auto Repair when you first turn into the business park south on 4th Street. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain the motion from the council.
I'll move Resolution 18-12, approving the sale of a parcel of land, parcel AA, in the street right-of-way greenway adjacent to Mark's Repair, to MMC Properties LLC for $500 to facilitate redevelopment pursuant to a development agreement.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any council discussion?
I think this was one that Bill had kind of shared with us before.
Yeah.
And I think the Economic Development Commission was made aware of it and fully supported it, so.
I'll just point out that later in the meeting, you're going to be asked to approve the plat of parcel AA, so we do public hearings first, otherwise we would have had it afterwards. It'll make everything go then. And we'll also be asked to, the first reading of the change of zoning for that parcel, because it's now zoned as an industrial property, because it was part of the South Industrial Park. So that'll be changed to C2.
Any other discussion for this resolution? Roll call vote, please.
Rinko.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
And Bergen.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1. The resolution passed.
5-0.
5-0. And, thank you. Now is the time to open up the floor for public comments on any item that is not on the agenda. If you have something, anyone in the gallery you'd like to speak to the council about, please step up to the podium and state your name and address and what you'd like to visit with us about. Seeing none, we'll move on. Next item is the consent calendar. Pay request from Stanley Consultants Incorporated for the Cedar River Parkway East improvements for 2018, $116,574. Pay request from McClure Engineering for the 20th Street Northwest reconstruction for 2018, $2,141. Pay request from Construction Materials Testing for the Waverly Municipal Airport runway extension for 2018, $9,274. Ownership change for the Waverly Golf and Country Club, a Class C liquor license for Tapito Mexican Grill.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to have the fourth item, the ownership change for Waverly Golf and Country Club, removed from the consent calendar.
Okay?
Just a little clarification, removed altogether or removed to visit about later? Or-
Visit about later.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then we'll vote on the other.
Yeah. You're prepared to vote on the other items, 1 through?
I will move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Consent calendar, except for item number 4, is approved. Now,
Now, I had a question on item number 4. I'm not exactly sure what we were voting for there. I looked at the information that was sent out, and I'm not sure why we have to approve an ownership change or what ownership change was actually taking place. If someone could explain that to me.
So I actually questioned the same thing, and so we talked with the club owner's president, and we were told that the state said it was okay, but what they're doing is Jordan David, who is our pro shop manager, is also going to be shared with the club now, with the country club, and so they wanted him listed on there. Well, he'll be listed as 0% ownership. He'll still be listed, so because they want him to take care of all of that now, all the paperwork and all that stuff. I still don't necessarily agree with that, however, the state says it's okay, so I don't know what else to do.
Okay?
So he's being approved as the 0% owner And this is for the liquor license?
I guess that's the bottom basic, easy way to say it, yes.
Or, wait, is this just the liquor license, or it's the whole?
Liquor license.
It's the liquor, it's for the state's purpose for rules.
Okay.
Kind
That's the way I gathered from what I read. It was a liquor license.
Yep.
that-
You have any problem with this, Bill? Is this?
I don't. I assume that they want his name to be as the contact person for the corporation, and they're really just changing the responsible person from the corporation. So it may be that form doesn't really allow that type of thing to be done that way, and maybe we didn't have to approve it because the state wouldn't require it. They could just enter it, but it doesn't hurt to approve it.
Okay.
Wonder if we need to upgrade them from manger to manager.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable, Rod?
If the city attorney is comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. I would entertain a motion then to vote on item 4 of the consent calendar, which is a ownership change for Waverly Golf and Country Club.
I move that we approve the ownership change for Waverly Golf and Country Club.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
No? Well, item number 4 is also approved. Regular business, item K. Item number 1 for K is approved purchase of 2 zero-turn Gravely mowers from Miller True Value Hardware of Waverly, Iowa for the cemetery division. Will your motion?
I move the purchase of 2 zero-turn gravelly mowers from Miller True Hardware of Waverly, Iowa for $7,896 for the cemetery division.
Second?
I'll second.
Council discussion, or Tab, do you have some comments you'd like?
Just a couple things. We had $13,000 budgeted in the cemetery for a backhoe attachment. After we investigated that and looked at those, we found out that they were not quite as fitting to our needs as what we wanted to. So in the meantime, we had pretty much gone through our third residential zero-turn mower. So we thought if we could find a good commercial unit or heavy-duty residential unit, that would work out a lot better than the just residential units. So we found Gravely, and we test rode it, tried it out a couple times, and found that it was very heavy-duty. It had some safety features that the others didn't have. It had lots of good things we thought would be a good use for the cemetery. If you can imagine, we have 8,000 stones we have to mow around, and we can't have big mowers out there. It's got to be something very maneuverable and compact. So we would recommend that we change the use of that budgeted funds to purchase 2 Gravely mowers. We are pleased to have Mr. Miller in the audience if you have any technical questions.
Does this mean we don't need the backhoe, or you're going to just continue using shared equipment?
At this point, we're going to use some shared equipment. We may be looking at a more substantial purpose of a smaller portable one that is its own unit. So, and those are a lot more expensive than just the attachment. So that might be something in the future.
I want to commend Paul for a very well-written report. I know everything you need to know about mowers now. But it made it very clear why you need these, so it was helpful.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Cemetery is purchasing 2 more Gravely mowers from Miller True Value. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approved purchase of SemSites cemetery software from SemSites of Perryopolis, Pennsylvania for the cemetery division. I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval, purchase of SemSite cemetery software from SemSites of Perryopolis, Pennsylvania for the cemetery division for $8,100 with an annual fee of $1,100 for support costs.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Presentation by Tab.
My intention was to have my office manager here, because he's the one who's going to be working with it all the time, and he wanted to show you what it took to sell a grave or locate a grave and that sort of thing. But the weather was such that I sent him home, because he lives in Waterloo. However, what we do for a location or selling a grave space is we have 3x3 boards with the cemetery maps on them that we have to carry around. We have to carry multiple ones around if the people want to look at different sections. What this does is this would give us the ability to put electronic maps in the cloud, and then be able to use our phones to have maps, current maps on the of the cemetery. We'd be able to just show people pretty much any place they wanted to. The other thing it does is it integrates all the different forms that we have, so that if we have a grave opening, it also goes to it gets referred from a title sheet for a sale that goes to the permanent record type thing. So we'd only have to put the information once. Currently, we have 3 different forms. We have hard ledgers. We have hard maps, and we think this would be the next step that we can do in terms of modernizing the cemetery operations. One of the things this also does is we'll be able to put a site on our website that people will be able to look up themselves, the relatives. The cost of the software is $7,000. This year it includes the $1,100 of the annual fee, so after this it'll be $1,100 a year. This is budgeted in the cemetery budget.
All right, very good, thank you.
And you have staff that you will be assigning to put the current records on this system?
Part of the deal is they're going to put the records on.
Yeah, so I was at the Leisure Services Committee meeting where they discussed this, and he made a very good case. You will be able to, someone else can use this on their own phone, so it doesn't have to be a cemetery employee to use the app. You can just download the app on your phone. So if you were, say, looking for the grave of someone, you could go to the website, find the location, and use kind of GPS to locate the grave site. It'll be much easier for the cemetery employees to kind of find out what sites are available, to view, kind of see what the site looks like. For people considering grave sites, it seemed like a good software. He seemed on top of things. And I know he had looked at a number of different software in addition to this one before making the decision.
One more example. It's going to be able to identify, what do they call them, things that get in the way, like a tree or a boulder or lime rock underneath or something like that, so that we don't sell those lots.
Is this a useful tool for genealogists?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions for Tab or comments? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business is to approve purchase of one 2018 Dodge Police all-wheel drive Charger from Stu Hansen of Urbandale, Iowa. Entertain a motion?
I move we approve the purchase of one 2018 Dodge Police all-wheel drive Charger from Stu Hansen of Urbandale, Iowa for $21,500.
I'll second that.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Chief Purcell?
Mayor and Council, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Just an overview, this is a replacement of a 10-year-old vehicle and Chevy Impala that we have assigned to the investigator division. It is time to rotate that out, and we use state bid pricing. As you see in front of you, the state bid price is $23,756, and then with trade-in, it makes it an even $21,500. It is budgeted within this budget year that we're working on, and that'll be taken out of our automotive equipment, and those funds were put in there through the lost funding, as you know, through budget.
Is there any particular reason we use a dealership out of Urbandale?
They're the ones that had the state bid pricing this year. Yep.
I think the trade-in was generous too. Cars having a little bit of trouble here and there, and it's probably overdue to be replaced.
It is. That's what's kind of nice is with the dealers that do state bid pricing, they work with volume. And our trade-in was actually much less than that. And I told our investigator that he needed to make sure he talked to them. And I said, my budget says 21.5. So that is why we got 22.56 for a trade-in.
Okay.
Because it was in the thousands, so.
Good work.
Very good. Any other questions, comments?
Who gets to drive the new car?
The new one will be for Troy Schneider, will be, yeah. And we didn't go with the Impala because the GM does no longer make the police package, just like the Crown Vics are no longer available.
Thank you. No further questions? All those in favor of purchasing a new 2018 Dodge Police Charger, say yes.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Next item, Resolution 1813. Set a public hearing date on the intent to commence a public improvement project for the 20th Street Northwest Reconstruction Phase 1 Railroad Crossing Improvements Project, and to acquire property and easements for such project. Entertain a motion, please.
We'll move Resolution 1813, setting the public hearing date on the intent to commence a public improvement project for the 20th Street Northwest Reconstruction Phase 1 Railroad Crossing Improvements Project, and to acquire property and easements for the project for March 19th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall.
Second?
Motion made and seconded.
Why is March 19th not coming up? I mean, putting it back.
We have to do a 30-day notice that we mail out to the landowners that we're going to acquire right away from.
Any other comments, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
And Drinkow.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Resolution 1814, authorizing the city to submit an application for a community development block grant, owner-occupied housing rehabilitation grant to the Iowa Economic Development Authority in 2018. Motion, please.
I will move Resolution 1814, authorizing the city to submit an application for a community development block grant, owner-occupied housing rehabilitation grant to the Iowa Economic Development Authority in 2018.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Bill, is this something you could fill us in on?
Sure. This is one of those projects, or one of those programs that we discussed when we were talking about getting houses out of the floodplain. This is a program that is competitive, and what it identifies is you identify an area, and then you try to find houses within that area that could be qualified for that through income qualification. So it has to be income qualified for the homeowner, and it can't be for any rental. It would just be homeowners. You can only do 5 a year. Is it 5 a year or 6 a year? 6 a year. So that we can only do a total of 6, but you can apply for it again. So we're going to see how this works. We don't have to do a whole lot because Intercog does these, and they get paid through that process. And so we don't have any match on this one, but they're forgivable loans that go over 5 years. If we get them, they're up to $24,999 for the homeowner. So it's a really good deal. It does take a little paperwork, and people have to be patient through that paperwork process to provide their information and all that. But we think we can identify the general area of where the homes are coming out of the 100-year floodplain as our target area, and probably find some that will want to do this. So we're going to do that process.
Bill, are there any restrictions on what the homeowner can use it for? I was reading in the material, it sounded like it would be for things like roofs and windows and maybe electrical, but I assume that the grant has restrictions on what kinds of things the money can be used to.
It does. It has it's fairly strict, but it's mostly just the kinds of things you would think about: siding, roof, windows, doors, things like that are basically, we hope will be outwardly improvements also, so that the appearance of the homes can be improved, as well as the energy efficiency, those kinds of things. And there are some additional monies they can get for other things, and I don't recall what those are for. But for the basic things that most people do, it's the $25,000 minus $1.
When you apply for the grant, do they have to specify what they're going to do with the money when the grant is applied for? You have to identify 6 actual properties that are going to be using the grant, and then what they're going to be using the grant for? Is it that detailed?
No, we will do more surveying, and we'll identify an area and potential homes that
And the
could be
people who want to
qualified.
participate in it just have to qualify once
Right.
we have received the okay for the grant.
And we'll probably look at, I mean, you start with the ones that are in the lower income or the lower price category, because that's more likely to have a low-income owner. That doesn't always mean that. That doesn't always mean they're going to have a low income. But at least we can identify some that could possibly benefit from this program, and then just offer them opportunities. We're not trying to push anybody into it. We're not going to make a public list of things. We're just going to talk to people individually, so that we don't do any embarrassment or anything of that nature, and basically just make an offer. Once we publicize it, I think we'll have maybe some people that want to come forward that would be interested in this kind of a program, and hopefully we'll get enough volunteers that we won't have to go out and really look for people. But we're going to be asking people to refer us to people to go see, just if they know more than we do. But I think we can hit a pretty wide area in order to do this. And I think we'll be pretty competitive, because we have a compelling reason to help the low-income housing in that area, based on the money that's been paid out by those people over the years.
And this could be a multi-year program?
You can apply for it multiple times. And if we don't get it the first time, it's likely that you have a better chance the second time. So it's one of those things that will probably recur for the next couple of years until we get it. And if we get it and we have a lot of demand, then we'll try it again if we can.
Sounds like a great program. I think I certainly support it.
I think Waverly's used this before in the past and benefited from that, so.
I know there's some houses out in the Eastgate addition out behind Star Motel there that the program was used to help out.
I mean, I think we're going to try to go for the middle section of town just this time. We don't know yet, but we'll see if we get enough potentials. We might go a little bit north too, past the railroad tracks. And if we do, we're not trying to exclude anybody, and our main concern is the people that were in the floodplain and are out now. So I think if we can try to focus on that area.
And it's owner occupied.
Owner occupied. Mm-hmm.
Anyone in the audience that cares to comment on this resolution, this application? Roll call vote, please.
Mackenzie?
Yes.
Rafi?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Motion carried. Resolution 1815, approving a special provisional use request for a solar panel array in southwest Waverly. Entertain a motion?
I move Resolution 18-15, approving a special provisional use request for a solar panel array for Waverly Utilities on replat of lots 9 and 10 in Waverly Industrial Plaza in southwest Waverly.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion by the council.
And we're not conveying the land to them, we're just giving them permission to use it.
That's correct.
I'm going to. Oh, there we go. I hit the button, this wasn't on. I just want to let people know, I think there were some questions asked about where it was the last time, and you can see it's the green parcel there, that's south of the golf course. And that's all I wanted to do, and I'll let the utilities present.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and guests. I'm Kurt Atkins, Director of Business Operations with Waverly Utilities. Tonight, we're asking for a provisional use of the property for a 500 kW solar array that the utility's been looking into for about the last year or two. This is mostly driven from a interest in a national level and as well as a local level. Recently, in the last year, we did a community survey with customers asking what their interests were maybe in a community solar project, if they would be interested in buying a solar panel and what the price point breaks might be around that. The results of that was a very favorable return of interest in the project, which kind of persuaded us to move ahead into looking for land. The purpose of the land that we were looking for was right around a 3-acre plat of land to fit the 500 kW array into this area, which what that equals in 500 kW is about 1,600 solar panels. So it does take up some square footage that we're looking to acquire. The array is not really too anything different than what you might see in pictures on the internet and other projects. There's a community solar project not too far down the road from us at Cedar Falls Utilities. They constructed their project a couple years ago and had a very good success with it. One of the main reasons why we're pursuing the community solar project is not only community input, but customers that may not be able to put solar on their own property do either because they rent the property, maybe the house is facing the wrong way, they don't want to invest in a large project. The community solar gives customers an opportunity to buy a panel at a time, or they can buy multiple panels depending on what they would like to pursue. We also will be able to offer some financing of solar panels where the customer, if they want one panel, they can finance it for a period of 12 months on their utility bill. Or they can, if they want 5 panels, they can buy them outright right out of the gate. So it gives us some other opportunities for customers to participate in that they may not otherwise do. So in a real rough nutshell, that's what the project's about. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about it.
I guess I have one question. Obviously, the electricity that's being generated from a solar panel is not going directly to someone's residence that purchased that solar panel. Are they getting a credit against their electrical bill, or what's the advantage to having a solar panel?
Exactly correct. This project would be, it's not going directly to the customer's home. It's a bulk measured of amount of energy that would be produced on the array itself that would be divided between all the participants that are in the project. So it would end up being a credit on their utility bill depending on how many kilowatt hours is produced in a given month. Obviously, we're kind of in those shoulder months where we don't get a lot of sunlight and the days are shorter. The project is being designed around what we'd call our summer peak load, so it would help with that air conditioning load that customers would see on their utility bills.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Kurt?
A logistic one, it seems like this is in the backyard of a couple of businesses that are out there. I'm assuming we don't have any issues with needing to put up screening. I haven't had any feedback from those companies as far as the use of the site or.
We have not had any feedback from the adjoining property owner of the property. We would not have to put any screening up per se, but what would be around the property would be a chain link fence. We'd have to put that up for safety reasons, but outside of that, that would be about the extent of any kind of screening that one would see as they drive by.
Does there need to be vehicle access to the site?
There is, if you look.
Is that along the north side?
Right along that north side at 16th
Okay.
Ave Southwest. There's a partial drive there, and that would be the entrance point into the property for us as well.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone else in the audience that cares to speak to this motion, this project? Thank you, Kurt.
Welcome. Thank you.
No other comments from the council? Roll call vote, please.
Rafi,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drinkow,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0. Resolution 1816, authorizing acquisition of real property for the Cedar River Parkway East project. I would entertain a motion.
I move Resolution 1816, authorizing acquisition of real property for the Cedar River Parkway East project. Acquisition for the following location: Daniel and Kelly Stryker's property of parcel 5 and 10 at 1718 East Bremer Avenue for $125,000.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion?
This property, one of the parcels is where the larger borrow pit's going to be for,
You see the project there, and in the middle, right there is the Stryker property. And you can see the large pink area, which is the borrow pit, and that's right adjacent to the rail trail. And so it's that triangle, we're actually buying 8 acres in that triangle. So it's the largest piece that we're acquiring on the project. And it's going to be used as a borrow pit on that one end. On the other end, there will be space that we will reserve a street right-of-way that will go from the Parkway to the north for potential use in developing the property north of the rail trail at that location. Until that road is put in, there won't be any access for vehicles across the rail trail, but there will be the bike trail that goes along the Parkway will hook up with the rail trail. So the Parkway trail and the rail trail will connect with a connection so that there can be kind of a looped trail to go back into Waverly by the soccer fields and then back into the parks.
Okay.
Are there plans to develop that property north of the trail? Stryker property?
There are not any immediate plans. This will open up a north and south, a south access for the property that has a north access. And we believe that will help spur the potential for probably residential development in this area. It's residential to the west of this, and south with the rail trail on the south. It's a pretty little farm that would be good for residential. It's kind of hilly, and so it's not really designed for industrial at this point unless it was leveled, and that would be a lot of money. So I'm guessing it'll be residential. And that's what we have, a mixed use, I think, in the land use plan, because we weren't sure what somebody would do with that. So I think that's what the group had talked about, a mixed use. But this is a pretty important piece. And it'll end up being kind of a nature area when we're done. I think that when you saw when the engineers came and gave a preview of the project, they indicated that this was going to be partially wet, variable depth, so that there could be some real park-like setting for this. And the area where the road goes across, there's going to be room potentially for some trailhead parking and perhaps to develop some connection to the rail trail at that point.
Okay, any other questions for Bill? Not, anyone in the audience cares to speak to this resolution, proposed resolution?
Before we vote, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make one comment. I think the people on the council know my position on the Cedar River Parkway project. If not, they haven't been paying attention. So I'm going to vote no on this because I don't feel it would be appropriate for me to vote to approve the acquisition of land for a project that I'm not in favor of. But I assume that there are 4 other votes here that would carry that vote forward, and I don't want to stand in the way of having this project go forward if that's the intention of the rest of the council.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
No.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Motion carried 4-1. Thank you. Resolution 1817, approving a minor subdivision plat for creation of parcel AA and parcel Z in block 12, original town of Waverly. Entertain the motion, please.
I will move Resolution 1817 approving a minor subdivision plat for creation of parcel AA and parcel Z in Block 12, original town of Waverly.
I'll second the motion.
Council discussion.
Can somebody interpret that map?
Yeah,
that we
remember
got?
this.
I
So,
think I
okay, so-
Can't read my
understand what's
notes.
happening, but
If you go to the plat itself, the parcel Z and parcel AA, that shows the alley. But what happened was when they bought the property, when the Cohen Esri people bought the property, they bought the parking lot to the south, but they didn't need it for this project. What they found out they needed, though, they needed some extra parking places for the project. So they took the north 22 feet, and when they bought the property, they actually did a description that we wouldn't necessarily allow them to do, just to say they want to. So the 5 and 6 below, they bought 5 and 6 minus the 22 feet, and then the two parcels went to two different LLCs that they own, that they control. They shouldn't have done a split that way. So instead of, and they had already basically done this, and it was and the recorder recorded it. So we came in after the fact and said, well, we need to fix this. And we needed to fix it anyway because they found out they needed to have one contiguous parcel for their project. So what they did is they took the north 22 feet, added it to 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the top. But we had to add the alley, so we add the alley by vacating the alley tonight. They own both sides of the alley on the west half, so we generally try to give the property when we vacate an alley to the adjoining owners on each side of the alley. So that's what we did in that situation, but they got both sides that way. And then the other side, we had Corson and their property, and so Corsons were happy with that because they do a lot of work there anyway, and they have a loop there so they can use that. And both parties intend to keep the alley the same way because they're just going to have parking on that one side. It's a real narrow alley. I think that building's like right on the edge of the alley, and there's equipment, there's a electrical box, and they've worked out something, and they're going to give an easement to Waverly Utilities because it's an above-ground easement. We don't have anything underground in that alley, so we thought it was the best to get rid of the entire alley instead of just doing the west half.
Okay. Any further council discussion? Anyone in the audience care to speak to this? Roll call vote, please.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Rafi.
yes.
Bergen.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item number 9, Resolution 1818, setting the public hearing date to review a request for a change of use from golf course to single-family residential for one additional single-family residential lot in Outlot P of the Planned Development District Centennial Oaks Golf Club Edition, and to amend the future land use plan from semi-public to residential. Entertain a motion.
I would move Resolution 1818 as read and set the public hearing date as February 19th, 2018 at 7 PM in the council chambers of City Hall.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion, please.
Just to give you a little information, parcel QQ, I think it's right. It is a large NOMO area that the golf course is maintaining, and it's next to the Breezy Hill lots that we had, that the council had approved. They found somebody who would like to develop that lot, and it basically has no value to the golf course. It's a part of the planned development, so rather than do a rezoning and have all of that entails, under the PD, you can do a one-time public hearing and then vote for the change of use. So it's a simpler form of changing the zoning for that particular parcel. There's waters coming across the street from the same way that Breezy Hill would be served by Central Iowa Water. And then we have a sewer connection that goes along the street there that we would hook them up to sewer from the city sewer.
Assuming the parcel allows access through the joint access that's already there, there won't be a new driveway put onto the road itself?
There will be a driveway on the road. Yep. The parcel B is actually going to be the additional right-of-way for that street. So that parcel, it would be the city's right-of-way. That's where the sewer line is located, within that parcel B, or tract B, I mean, not parcel B.
Think of when that area was originally divided up, there was some issues about too many driveways, so they had a common driveway, that type of thing.
This is a large enough lot, it's 437 feet long, that we think it's probably just fine. I think when Breezy Hills developed, they're discussing putting just 2 driveways into those lots. I mean, it possibly could be done differently, but that's the one thing that they've talked about. We would like to not have 6 driveways in a row.
Said, I guess I was reading this, I was kind of struck that it seems unusual that the water is being supplied by Central Iowa Water, even though it's inside the city limits. Is that an unusual situation? Is there any problem going forward, liability, if the Central Iowa Water no longer provides the water service for it, or if there's an interruption in water service, or what problems might we have by having a third entity supplying the water out there?
I think that what the decision was made was that we can't really economically take the water main that direction.
Right, yeah, I
And serve
understand
those, those few lots. They have a water main right across the road, and they will be putting in a hydrant to serve those lots.
We get some kind of a release that the city's not responsible for providing water to them?
I guess there's no guarantee. They're counting on the fact that they're getting water from across the street from another entity, and we wouldn't want to do it later, so.
We don't ever have a commitment to provide water to them out there. It's sometime in the future, 10 years down the future, and they want to hook on to city water. We don't have a commitment to run a line out there.
No, I mean, we're letting them get water the way they're getting water from across the street from another entity. We wouldn't build them a long, expensive water main just to serve them.
Right.
Are they on city sewer?
Yes, because the sewer line does go around and loop around, and that was able to be done and works because there's a sewer line that came across the golf course.
I guess I'm not familiar with Breezy Point. Was that last
The
year?
Breezy Hill is.
Breezy Hill?
Yeah, that's 5 lots that were carved out of the southeast corner of the Prairie Links Golf Course. And it was never within that subdivision, was it? No, it was there must have been a homestead or some kind of a property there that was not purchased by the golf course.
The Luxembourgs reserved that corner for their future use.
Right.
So it's, as I recall from a long time ago, and they can do what they want with it, in essence.
And it's already been approved as a separate subdivision.
Is there a stop sign there? Do you know, at that intersection?
Yes.
No, okay. Going one.
Going north.
North-south.
Yeah, the
Not-
north-south 8th is,
Okay.
yeah. or,
It's a two-way stop.
11th has
Yeah.
a stop sign, I think.
Okay.
240th is or 29th Avenue Southeast is a seal coat road.
Oh.
And it's seal coat road to the north also.
Well, I don't know if this is unrelated, but I've heard multiple comments that in this kind of golf course region, there aren't any children's play lots. So we have basically a large subdivision with lots of green space, but no actual kind of children's parks. And I realize that, this is way down in a corner. This wouldn't be where you'd put a children's lot in any case. But I have heard some comments that there's kind of a shortage of play space in this development.
When it was platted and developed, it was developed as a golf course community, the lots, and they were allowed to use the driving range as the green space requirement for the entire subdivision, for the entire development. We've carved out of that when the driving range is converted to another use, there's going to still be an acre and a half, I think, of green space in the corner. Right now, they're still using that as the driving range tee box until such time as they develop it, so.
Do you think will it actually be park, playground type green space, or will it just be
it'll be
green space with nothing on it that's not actually usable?
I think what we have asked them to do and what they intend to do is to have a privately maintained green space with like a gazebo or something that the people in the apartments can also use.
There
space.
There is a gentleman's agreement in place for that area.
I think it's more than a gentleman's. They've actually designated it on the plat as a green space park. But we didn't really want to maintain that kind of a space as a public park because it's small enough that it would be easier it'd be better for the adjoining owner that is responsible for it to maintain it.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone in the audience or council? Roll call vote, please.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Rothy?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 10, first reading of ordinance 1030, an ordinance amending chapter 100, section 100.12 of the city code, providing for amendments to the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district language and setting a public hearing. Entertain a motion.
I will move this if I can get all the way through reading this with my voice not going out on me. First reading of ordinance, I move the first reading of ordinance 1030, an ordinance amending chapter 100, section 100.12 of the city code, providing for amendments to the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district language and setting February 19, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall as the date, time, and place for a public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, council? Bill, is this your introduction again?
Yeah, this is our commercial C1 change. And quite frankly, it isn't much like the old C1 because the old C1 was a neighborhood district that really dealt with places from the 40s and 50s where you had, newsstands and little mom and pop shops in the middle of residential areas. So it really didn't apply to anything. It's never been used in the community that I know of. So we took the C1 and we needed to have a place to put the commercial uses that were previously allowed in R4, which was the types of uses that we are now describing in this C1 zoning. So you have medical offices, business professional offices, personal service businesses. It's like I said, the uses that were made use in the R4 district. Our intent was to have a place for those that wasn't in C2 because C2 provides for pretty much unlimited commercial use, and we were trying to find a place for these businesses that didn't really operate They usually operate on an 8 to 5 or an 8 to 8 type of time frame, by appointment mostly. Didn't involve lots of vehicles coming and going, not like a retail place. So we tried to find a place for these that were previously allowed in the R4 district. And we think we went back and forth with the P&Z about 3 different times, and actually had some really good discussions about how we tweaked it here and there. And we think we have a really good product now that can work. It's pretty innovative in that sense, because first of all, most zoning districts in the state look alike because the same companies did a lot of them. And so they use the same language. And we're finding that a lot of these are not really that useful anymore, and they don't apply as well anymore. So we tried to make it use language that we're being used in probably the most urban areas, and the ones that have had to change their districts. So we tried to use more language from those types of places that have been redoing their zoning ordinances. So we think this C1 could be used where you want to buffer a residential use behind it. It would be a good transition from commercial to a residential use. It's probably better than a C2 going right to residential.
Do we have any zones currently that are zoned C1?
No.
And are there any places that we are likely to zone C1 in current plans?
I don't know for sure. I mean, if I were to do 10th Avenue, again, when they did that area just past the viaduct, where Rolling Meadow is on the north, that would have probably been a good C1 zone. And it has really grown up to be mostly a C1 zone. I think the flooring place that has a little bit of warehouse space, that's probably out of the character that we would put in a C1, because that's served by semis and deliveries. We're trying to avoid the traffic of large trucks, and we're trying to avoid the retail, the very busy retail traffic. And then the late hours are very early hours. And we think that does that with this kind of a zoning.
So is this being spurred by a potential project, or you have this in mind for a, certain part of town?
Well, we don't.
Or is it just for future planning?
For the R4, we used to have people use R4 that they could use either put housing or light commercial. So we needed a place for that because we took commercial out of R4. We didn't really want to do that mixture of uses. We wanted to layer uses as opposed to mixing them. So since there was nothing in R4 that allowed commercial anymore, we really didn't have a place other than C2. So once you put C2, it can be anything in the commercial area. So we want that option for people to develop areas that they can put the C1 type of area, business, like a light business park type of thing with those kinds of uses.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the council? Comments from the audience? Getting slimmer. Roll call vote, please.
Mackenzie?
Yes.
Raffy?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Rinkow?
Yes.
Angus?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. First reading of ordinance 1031, amending the zoning map of City of Waverly for property described in southwest Waverly on the southwest corner of 4th Street Southwest and Technology Place from M1 Light Industrial to C2 Commercial District, and setting a public hearing. Entertain a motion, please.
I will move the first reading of ordinance 1031, amending the zoning map of the City of Waverly for property described in the southwest Waverly on the southwest corner of 4th Street Southwest and Technology Place from M1 Light Industrial to C2 Commercial District, and setting February 19th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall as the date, time, and place for a public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion.
This is that Mark's property.
For public clarification, this would be what the Marks property that we dealt with earlier on the agenda. Any other discussion, comments? Roll call vote, please.
Rafi?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drinkow?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
McKenzie?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1, or 5-0. Item 12, first reading of ordinance 1032, amending chapter 59 of the city code to replace the current wording with a proposed new chapter and setting a public hearing. To entertain a motion, please.
I move the first reading of ordinance 1032, amending Chapter 59 of the City Code to replace the current wording with the proposed new chapter and setting February 19th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall as the date, time, and place for a public hearing.
Second.
I will second.
Council discussion. Fill us in, Bill.
When I get done today, I don't have to do this for a couple months because they told me.
A couple of weeks, maybe.
Maybe we, yeah. This is something that there's a combination of people involved in this. I know Carla's worked with the Cable Commission, and TAB works with them based on the usage of the fees, because that's provides a budget for that, for the things that happen in here and the cameras and the sound and all that. We've talked about we need to have a new franchise chapter, because the old chapter was actually the Mediacom contract, which has been done since 2013. So this is a good time to basically establish that whoever performs or does cable in the city has to pay the franchise fee. And I believe that in the past, and I hope today, TAB has made a good case for additional funds that we can use to upgrade the equipment, upgrade the facilities, make our broadcasts much better. Also gives us a much better opportunity to use some money to put some programming on the PEG channels, the public access channels, and allow for some of that to be used for that purpose. We also assume that as more people convert to the wonderful Waverly Utilities fiber, they may stream and not have cable anymore. And the fewer customers that are using cable means there'll be fewer fees coming in. So this number should come back to, it could come back to where we are now in the future. With if we use a higher 5% now, it could come back to the total that we're collecting now, under 3%. So we think this is a good investment in these kinds of services, because we think it's important for people to have a good access to this type of meeting and other meetings like this, and potentially using other technology to broadcast other things on those channels, and to really do it with quality.
Thank you.
I guess that, you've kind of hit on the question I had. Anytime there's an and or in there, it kind of throws me. What's it referring to? As I read it, it's directed at any provider of cable television and or video service. So this would be strictly for anybody running their service on a cable to the house, not Netflix, some of the streaming services.
It is only people who have wires in the ground, because it's a fee that's basically a rental of the ground used to put the fiber cable or the coaxial cable to the home. And that's why the state basically has a state statute that governs this, and we just want to abide by that and follow that. Over 90% of the communities that have cable franchises are doing and having this particular percentage.
I'm looking forward to seeing if there are any public comments at the public hearing.
And that's why we decided to do a public hearing this time. By law, we're not required to do one, but we just felt it was a good opportunity to hear the public on this.
Right.
And I would mention that we did have a couple of new commission members on the board, and it was a unanimous vote to move forward.
I guess I would, again, bring back, we discussed this last year or 2 years ago, or previous council, we had discussed this on, I understand we have the ability to collect this franchise fee. I know that we're using it and applying it to these broadcast facilities. It seems like this is a service we're providing to the entire community, and we're asking a portion of the community to pay for it. And so to me, I think it should be, for a service that is available for the entire community, it ought to be something that comes from the entire community.
What the services pays for is the digging up and the using of the right-of-way, so it's those people that are watching it on cable.
I understand, but there are people that watch online that aren't paying anything for the service, and we are paying for providing that service online,
But are they watching it on, you mean like on Facebook Live?
like watching YouTube.
Well, the replays.
Yeah, that's a service that is provided that the city covers, and it's paid for through the use of these right-of-ways, et cetera, but anybody has that ability in the community. You know, we've talked about, I liken it to the sewer and water fees, where we've got people that don't pay property taxes, but they pay water fees, so, that's just my kind of take on it, you know. It's a service that we need to provide. It is a way that we're funding, providing that service. I think it should be a little more equitable spread out. That's just where I've been on that.
I still have trouble with paying to watch television. I think it's all, you know.
Tab, do you have anything to add to what's been said?
No, I think Bill covered it pretty well. There's a lot of potential out there that we aren't really doing yet. We'd sure like to try to do better.
Okay, thank you.
Under the previous version of this, did a percentage of what was collected go to support broadcast, those type of things, and the rest of it just went into general fund?
It's still 50/50. That's the way the rule or the chapter reads, I believe, with the cable.
Okay, so we're carrying that
Cable
forward
commission.
under this.
Yes.
Anything else? Roll call vote, please.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drinkow,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Rafi.
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0. Item 13, Resolution 1819, adopting updates for the City of Waverly Employee Handbook.
I move Resolution 18-19, adopting updates for the City of Waverly Employee Handbook.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Council discussion? Bill or James, do you have anything to say about this?
Yes, sir. We have been working on this for many, many months. Staff has. We've been trying to look at a lot of the handbooks. Some of the chapters didn't really apply anymore. Some we had some labor standards we had to change. We also brought the Excel group in, some HR issues to try and see what changes needed to be done. And so we wanted to bring forth to you a kind of a more modernized handbook. A lot of the prior handbook had been done when we would settle contracts, we just would apply everything into here. But that didn't seem to make as much sense. This is for all employees, and it kind of should be the other way around. This should be for all employees, and anything additional, whether it be for contract, would be that. And so it was kind of a backwards way of thinking through it that had been done. So a lot of it eliminated that kind of language that was in here. We made slight changes to certain verbiage. Some we had to change back, we weren't able to do that, and it was quite a learning experience when you really dig into everything that's in here. I honestly had only read most of it. There's parts of it I had not even read myself because I didn't have a need to read it, and so to go through it completely, it was quite a process. And so while some of the changes were small, some were more substantial, and it'll continue to be a work in progress. I guarantee there'll be more changes made to this eventually. We just want to have a good jumping off point to get started on again. And again, as we adjusted with some of the items, whether it be for some of the labor standards or, comp time, we didn't realize there was caps on some of that we had to put in. It was, it was quite eye-opening. So we just want to, again, present this to you to give us a starting point going forward, as I'm sure we will have more changes as time progresses.
Okay.
Let me just say on this document that it would be nice, and I know you probably can't do it on this one because you made a number of wholesale changes, but it'd be nice to have a red line document that we could take a look at and see what the changes actually were, rather than just the finished product.
I can
We can do
forward
that.
that out to you.
Okay, well, we'll vote on it tonight, so it's really kind of passed, and I don't have a problem, I trust what you're doing, but if we're to review what is in there, I guess I would feel a little bit more comfortable knowing what the changes actually were, rather than just what the finished product was, but I have no problem voting on it tonight.
I was going to say, if you'd prefer, we could delay it till the 19th, get that out to you and have you review it instead.
That would be okay. I don't know.
Let's do that then. I'd feel better if you had that opportunity to look at that way. So we'll add it to the 19th if somebody would want to table it until then or remove it or whatever the proper.
Postpone.
Thank you. Would postpone it to the 19th. I think it's appropriate.
I'll move that we postpone the item 13 until the 19th of February meeting.
I'll second that.
Could we still make a few comments on it in case it needs to be incorporated in there tonight? And
Sure.
Absolutely.
just section 11.3, vacation calculations. It seems to list non-bargaining type positions, supervisors, specialists, those type of things. It's intended to, or is this a section that the union contracts would address specifically, or do we need to broaden the category of folks that it covers, I guess is a complicated way of answering a simple question.
Yes and yes. It would address it eventually. Since we've not negotiated that contract yet, we didn't want to make any assumptions and apply that here. So hopefully by the time we come back to the 19th, as we're doing negotiations Friday, we'll have a much better idea of what that is, and we can package some of that in here. But at the time, we didn't want to make any assumptions and put that through. So this is all basically non-bargaining, all employee, unless a contract differentiated from this. So that was the reasoning behind it.
And then the other question I had was just mechanics. If the council is taking action to approve it, am I correct that going forward, if there were any changes, they would have to come back to the council to be reapproved? And
Correct.
I think there was some hesitation on a few city staff that this could just be arbitrarily changed by the administrator or department head.
No, this will be council changes only. And a lot of the ones we've seen in the past have multiple versions that have been updated and changed year after year after year, and they list them at the top of it. We had a number of cities we looked at that have that happen every year. So again, if there's anything substantial, even minor, you will be made aware, and the change will come before you.
I had a question about the very long substance abuse section. At the bottom of page 23, it says the cost of any treatment or rehabilitation shall be borne by the employee to the maximum extent permitted by law. Does that mean they don't get to use their health insurance for their chemical dependency treatment? Or I thought that was interesting wording
Find that here.
for treatment of a medical disease. It's right at the end of page 23.
Just taking a quick view of the rest of it to make sure we're getting context. I mean, I would assume that insurance would step in first, and this would be an after insurance. I'm not sure what insurance would or wouldn't cover for something like this, but I would have to believe that that would be the case. It would certainly apply if insurance covered it. And this would be the above and beyond, basically stating that we as a city would not pick up that cost, which some may, but we are not adding that in here. But I would absolutely believe that insurance would be looked at first. I just don't know that we have that kind of coverage or in-depth coverage for something like that, depending on the extent of it. You can go ahead and speak up, Carla.
We do have EAP for employees that would be, I mean, we already pay for that, so I would imagine that that's probably where things would begin, is with those counselors. And then we would probably have to talk about what the next steps would be.
I would agree, and then it depends on what you're defining as treatment or rehabilitation, whether it's substance abuse or things of that nature. How deep is that? I mean, yes, we do have some measures in place, but again, it's to the extent and the depth of what this would be that would probably start to apply.
I think the wording is a little awkward where it says to the maximum extent permitted by law. I think that's probably the
It sounds more like when
issue.
you get arrested, and then you have to pay, and then you have to pay your,
It's certainly open to interpretation.
Right.
I would agree.
We can look into that and make that change,
Or
possibly
if there's
remove that.
state code that maxes anything, or?
It does, it doesn't change the medical insurance, because that would be a separate contract. So whatever's allowed under that contract would be allowed. It also says that you can, that you can use sick leave, vacation leave, and unpaid leave. And that would be, I think, beyond that, I think what they tried to say with that first letter, and this is something that was recommended, I think, to us, this language, is that basically we're not going to pay for any treatment. We're just not going to be able to pay for any treatment other than what the insurance provides and what leave they can take.
then maybe they should word it like that.
Any other comments?
I see section 12.7 on maternity leave. Is there any paternity leave policy for the city?
Not that I'm aware of. Do we have a policy like that at this point?
Has anyone asked about that? Any employees?
I'm not aware of that request coming through, anything yet.
Is there a reason there isn't?
Probably for that very reason, it's not been requested since. I assume it if it was asked.
We follow FMLA, and we've had officers that have requested time off for that during FMLA. Yeah.
That's unpaid. That'd be unpaid.
Yeah.
So we just have not had a formal request for it. I think if we did, then we would address it, and it would, again, come back to you for that. We can certainly look to add that section if that's something council would like us to do, or at least get some kind of a draft language before the 19th if possible.
It may be something we want to revisit when we have a full-time or a part-time human relations or human resources person.
Anything else?
Yeah, because bringing that up, then quickly scanning, can't remember language for adoption.
Right.
Is that in there somewhere?
I didn't see it, so.
There's only one place. There's only one place, and that's where we give them flowers. So it's not really.
But thinking about those are other things.
I would just wonder, though, that because when we adopted children, my wife got our maternity leave, and I got the paternity leave, which was 2 weeks, but she got the full, even though she didn't have the baby. And the idea was that, but she had a 2-week-old infant to take care of, just the same, so, yeah.
It's sounding like maybe we should take that paragraph out and say, see FMLA language.
If you say that, though, I guess the question would be, would the adoptive parent not get any leave that's paid because we pay for, we pay
Yeah, this is the paid portion.
paid leave? And if,
That's true.
I mean, some people say it's a medical, like they consider it a medical leave because the mother just had the child. But others have just basically said it's that time to take care of a child in the first 3 months or 4 months, whatever it is, 6 weeks.
Maybe something that
Might be something to look at, incorporating some of that other language.
might be something that if, in the essence of time tonight, if you've got some comments between now and
These may all be good reasons why we want to delay this and approve my motion to delay this until the 19th.
that's why I say, if you have some comments, some other comments or things, questions for Bill, to get them to him fairly soon, and they can deal with them, or James.
Pretty quick with that.
Well, you are the lead on this one.
On this one. No, that's fine. We'll try and work something in best we can. And again, stepping off point, this will continue to evolve, so.
With that in mind, those in favor of postponing Resolution 1819, say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? postponed till it comes back on the agenda. Resolution 1820, authorizing mayor, city administrator, finance director, and city clerk to execute certain financial institution documents. Entertain a motion?
Move Resolution 1820, authorizing mayor, city administrator, finance director, and city clerk to execute certain financial institution documents.
Second?
Second.
Council discussion, comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Kangas,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Raffy,
Yes.
Bergen,
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Motion carried. Review of the 2018-19 fiscal year proposed budget. James?
I guess I'll look for questions from council. You know, we had our meetings on the last 2 Saturdays, and we had this on in case there was any follow-up questions or anything like that from those meetings. So I guess I'll, go to council and see what you would or would not like to review.
I guess the big one that came out of Saturday was with our additions, subtractions, et cetera, on there. You were going to try to see if you could crunch the numbers today. I don't know if you were able to get them all crunched.
We're
The number?
We're as
or-
close as we can get it. Jennifer, if you want to comment, I think we've got them pretty hammered out to where we thought it was going to be.
We are close, 14.45, 435. We've did all the adjustments that were requested, and there's just a few more tweaks I need to do to make sure that it all falls into place, but it's pretty close.
14,435 is about 29 cents more because we were about 14.
Right, we were 14, 17, something,
14,
something,
18.
14, 18, if you want to call it that. I'd call that 1445. So, yeah, that's where we sat. And we'd gotten it down to the point where we were at 14 even, and then the 45 is adding in the 2 additional projects, be it 20th Street Phase 1, 1A, I guess we're calling it, and then the first phase of the South Riverside Park. And so that's what took it to the 1445. So that's where we left it at the time, and that's where we sit today.
So there's still a little opportunity, but not much.
Yes, sir. If there's other things that council would like to consider, as I said, when we go to the hearing on March 5th, that first Monday, we can always reduce more, but we cannot go up. So there is plenty of time. That is when the official final budget would be voted through. So I guess in a sense, we have a preliminary levy that we've set up, the changes that have been made. And depending on any comments or questions or anything in the next week, we will probably get that prepared to go to publication, which we'll probably want to have everything in by the 12th to make sure that is able to be done. And Jennifer can start working towards that now. But yeah, there are still changes that could be made at that point in time. But once we go to hearing and we publish, it can only be reduced by category, not increased. And that'll be the March 5th meeting.
Other questions, comments from the council?
James, did you find out any more about costs of transferring all the billing over to Waverly Utility?
We were working on that this morning. They're hoping to get me some kind of an agreement soon, and they're trying to figure out as well how they're going to orchestrate that. So we did talk this morning a little bit, and as I said, they're wanting to get something worked up and talk amongst themselves to see how that's going to look. But will be some kind of a fee that we will pay then for that service going forward.
Okay. Moving on, reports from boards and commissions. Planning and Zoning Commission minutes from September 7th and October 5th. Any comments from the liaison or anyone from the council? Not they are received. Historic Preservation Commission minutes from November 27th, 2017. Those are received in the record. Leisure Services Commission minutes, January 18th, 2018. Those are received. Staff comments.
I don't believe we have any tonight, sir.
Okay. Council?
Here.
Ann? Jim?
Just thanks for our streets people getting out and dealing with the
Doing their
white
thing.
stuff.
Rod?
Nothing more.
Brian?
I think I have to point out that the most successful college basketball team in the state resides in this town. That would be the women's basketball team that is still undefeated for the year. So go out and watch a really good basketball team while you can.
Sharon, do you have any comments this evening you'd like to make?
No, not really.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Very good, thank you. Pleased you're here, and thanks again for your appearance. I don't have a lot of comments other than Ann and I have turned in some comments to Bill on the rules and procedures and ethics. So if those of you that have not, if you have anything to do, Bill would appreciate it, as he's done a rough draft of new rules and regulations, and it looks pretty good. Other than that, I don't know that I have anything specific to add to the discussion tonight. Just thank everyone for their participation, and with that, we would like to move into executive session to discuss collective bargaining strategy for upcoming city unit negotiations as provided by section 20.17.3 of the Code of Iowa. I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
And just for the public's sake, we will be adjourning after this, so there's no.
Official council meeting will be adjourned after this.
I would move to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining strategy.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Bergen.
Yes.
Drinkow.
Yes.
Angus.
Yes.
Rothy.
Yes.
McKenzie.
Yes.
Motion carried. We'll give